Chag Sameach. I am happy because it's Chag Sameach. We're happy. I'm also sleepy. Who is so sleepy? So sleepy. Well, I wanted to ask, Karen, thank you for helping to pass out the handouts. Who is an early bird? Okay. Who's a night owl? Okay. So I have to say, those of us who were not our night owls were lucky last night because we stayed up really late, and that's our natural way. I have so much respect for those of you who are early birds to have done that too. So I have to say, last night, though, even for me, was everyone can see me, right? This is okay to stand here. I feel like we're after the tikkun, let's just be a little more casual. Be nice and share. So there's a kind of loosening that happens for me when I stay up late, which I do pretty often. There's a kind of loosening as you get a little more tired. You start to think about things a little differently, maybe more of an openness to new ideas, a kind of, everything quiet, the world quiets down, and there's a way to just be with those ideas and let resistance fall away. So my example is that last night, David Margulies almost convinced me at 2:30 in the morning that I'm okay with people saying Shelo Asani Isha, which is men who say the blessing in the morning that they're happy that they were not created as a woman. And I really there's a way in which it was late at night, and that helped me to be open to that idea. And I woke up this morning and I was like, did that really seem like a good idea to you last night? And it did. It seemed like I was okay with it, maybe. So that's how you get me to be convinced of something, get me to be late at night. So I wanted to look at what our tradition says about what happens when we have little sleep, since so many of us have little sleep right now. So this first text is Pirkei Avot. So it's from the Mishnah, so it was codified around 200 CE. We're not going to read all of them, but greater is learning Torah than the priesthood and than royalty. For royalty is acquired by 30 stages, the priesthood by 24, and the Torah is acquired by 48 things. So it takes more things to be able to receive the Torah. And there's a whole list of what you need: study, listening, proper speech, intelligence, joy, humility. But then there's the second list. So the first on the list of what you should have little of. So you need a lot of the first paragraph, but you need a little of the second paragraph. And the first on the list is that you can acquire Torah, bemiut shena, which means a minimum of sleep. And other things: chatter, pleasure, frivolity, generosity. So this teaching is saying that little sleep allows you to be more open to receiving Torah, or maybe too much sleep prevents you from receiving Torah. And maybe that was preventing me from understanding David's argument, is that I was sleeping too much. Okay, so this next text, does someone want to read? Let's read the whole thing. This one we came to the whole thing. This is from the Talmud, so like 500-ish CE. Does someone want to read this one? Thank you, Mitchell.
By way of association, the Mishnah continues, the wine and sleep of the wicked are beneficial to them and beneficial to the world, as when they are sleeping or under the influence of wine, they do not cause harm to others. And conversely, the wine and sleep of the righteous are detrimental to them and detrimental to the world, as wine and sleep prevent them from engaging in their good deeds.
Okay, so what does wine and sleep do? For the wicked, it's good for the world because it takes away some of their strength and some of their power.
Well, it takes you offline, like you're not engaging in the world in any way.
Right, you're not engaging in the world. You're too busy sleeping. And then for the righteous, it hurts them because they're not doing their work in the world. So I would say this text is in tension with the Mishnah at the top, because it's saying that sleep, sleep is, hold on. I am sleepy. What do you think? Is it intention?
No.
Okay, it's an agreement, yes. So when you sleep takes you away from your work. Yes, good. So that's an agreement. Then the next one, which is the teaching from Rabbi Dosa ben Hirkanus, and he would say, sleeping through the morning drives a person from the world. So this is also that sleeping takes away from your ability to be in the world. If you sleep that late, you'll waste time that you could have spent studying Torah. Okay, so let's turn. There will be, this one is the one that is going to disagree a little bit. So this one is Breshit Rabbah, so it's a midrashic teaching by Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Does someone want to read the bold? People are too tired to read, that's okay.
As a result of a person
Thank you.
sleeping a bit, he can get up and toil extensively in the Torah.
Okay, so sleep is helping, a little bit of sleep is helping with Torah study.
Yeah, it's in moderation.
In moderation, yeah. Anything in moderation, doctor? Okay. Okay, now Rambam. Now, he is intense, and these are great. So this first example from his law code, I'll read the bold. All the prophets experienced prophetic manifestations only in dreams at night or by day after a deep sleep had fallen upon them. So all the prophecies, so we just read one of the prophecies in the Haftarah for today, but all the prophecies are after a deep sleep had happened, a daytime sleep. So they were sleepy. So it's, that could mean they were sleeping during the day. That could mean they didn't sleep in the night before, or it could mean that sleep is what brought about this prophecy, this connection to God by receiving the prophecy. Okay. This one is maybe the funniest one. It's very, very tough on people. So let's see. It's necessary to understand, this is still Rambam, that some persons belonging to the third class perceive scenes, dreams, and confused images when awake in the form of a prophetic vision. They believe they are prophets. They wonder that they perceive visions and think they have acquired wisdom without training. They fall into grave errors as regards important philosophical principles and see a strange mix of true and imaginary things. This is a consequence of the strength in their imaginative faculty and a weakness in their logical faculty, which has not developed and has not passed from potentiality to actuality. So, someone want to paraphrase that one? So people who believe they're prophets, but they're not functioning well. They're on too little sleep. They've convinced themselves that they're prophets, but they aren't really prophets. They see a mix of true and imaginary things. They have good imagination, but they don't have good logic. So he's pretty critical of that kind of prophecy. Social media. Maybe mental illness. So just to, kind of summarize things. So what, if you're looking at these sources, what is concerning about too much sleep? Waste of time. You could be studying Torah. What else? Not doing, right, Torah, good deeds. You're not doing the things you're supposed to do. It could also lead you to have this prophetic vision that's maybe not true. That's you fooled yourself into thinking that you're a prophet. What's concerning about too little sleep? It can also make you delirious. And maybe you can't study Torah because you haven't slept. So going to the top of the page of the Breshit Rabbah. And what do you think? Maybe we can think about that and process it. Anyone have a reaction to any of these? Yeah.
My first reaction is I feel like every time I come to Bethel, I end up causing trouble.
Good trouble. Good trouble.
That's why we love you.
But my reaction is we basically know that there isn't, for most people, there isn't such a thing as too much sleep, and that physically, one of the biggest problems we have in current society is most people don't get enough sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so, my overall reaction is it's kind of outdated that we just know that, in fact, to do all of these things, to have perception, and cognitive ability to study effectively and things like that, we need need sleep, and if anything, we de-emphasize sleep in our culture.
So we're not.
From a family with multiple genetic sleep disorders.
So we're not getting enough sleep.
Right.
Tell me if I get this right, just in case anyone's in the live stream or can't hear. We're not getting enough sleep these days. We really need more sleep. They, back, a long time ago, maybe got too much sleep. So it's hard. So we can't really compare our experiences, maybe. Yeah, Gail.
Going back to the
First.
sorry. Going back to the
Craig, then Gail.
section where it says by a minimum of sleep.
Yeah.
How do we know that doesn't mean you need at least a certain amount of sleep?
So in English, that seems like it could be the reading, but my reading of the nuances of the Hebrew is that it means it's more extreme than that. It's as little as possible. But someone here, if someone feels differently, correct me. So the list it's on, right? The list, sometimes we can derive meaning from the context. So the context, it's a list of kind of bad things. So chatter, frivolity, preoccupation, suffering. Yeah, it's a list of the bad things. But in English, I think that's a creative reading. Gail.
So I think you could also look at it sort of metaphorically instead of literally. And I think about what you started when you said, last night, because I was tired, my mind was more open.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe it's not so much like literally don't sleep, but when you're awake, be aware of more time that you could be more open, like in that state you are at 2 a.m. And so
I really like that.
referring to that.
I really like that. So maybe it's not about actual hours of sleep versus wake, but it's about when we're awake to not be asleep, to be as awake as we can be while we're awake, and meaning like,
Or even to be sleepy awake, because I think when you're sleepy awake, I mean that I think that's
to be
what you're
open,
saying.
yeah.
You sort of listen to things that during when there's less distraction or whatever that you wouldn't listen to.
Yeah, yeah. Be sleepy awake or be open to more things. Yeah.
Just to put things into context in our world of electric lights. They were pretty much on a schedule of following the sun.
Right.
If you're going to study, you really need to do it in the daytime because even if you have a candle, it's hard to study by candle, and candles are expensive. So wasting daylight is really a bad thing, but you're going to sleep most of the night, from sunset to sunrise, because what else are you going to do?
Yeah. Thank you. With electricity, we can change the times we sleep, and we have more ability to manipulate that than maybe they did. Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about the fact that it's so odd that in our world we claim to have a society largely driven by Judeo-Christian values, and then you look around the room and you see your doctor friends who were put through crazy residency, and we think about ourselves in school and pulling all-nighters, or even as a lawyer, there are times where we're up stupidly late trying to hit a deadline for a client. And so we don't listen to our sources in the way that we actually live our lives, which is an incongruous thing.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm gonna leave that one. Yeah, I think.
Just a thought, not a question.
Yeah. Yes, Faith.
When I think of the morning
Then Michael.
prayers, and part of after your sleep, when you wake up, you thank God that your soul is
For not being a woman. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Faith, I'm sorry. Please start over.
I'm talking about how sleep to me is when you think of the prophets and they're having their dreams. I mean, they're talking right here in Rambam, about how the prophets and the sages have the manifestations of their prophecies at night and in dreams or after a deep sleep. And when we say our morning prayers, we're thanking God that our soul is returned to us. So to me, sleep is just not catching up on what our body needs, but it's really a spiritual and a soul context that's very powerful, such that in the Navajo tradition, for example, you are not supposed to be asleep when the sun is coming down and the moon is supposed to be rising, because those two manifestations of our natural world are very powerful. And so it's like you don't want to lose yourself in that realm. And similarly, I think just sleep is, why do we say that in the morning? Because it sounds also that it could be, something could happen to us in our sleep, and it's not just sort of the dreams.
Yeah, it's high stakes when,
But we're defenseless in a sense.
Yeah, I won't try to paraphrase the Navajo beautiful teaching that you shared, but before when you said we are maybe not in our soul isn't in our body when we're sleeping, so it's serious stuff when we're awake, when we're asleep. It's also dangerous. There was a time when people didn't understand as much about medicine or about the world, and so they might have been worried they wouldn't wake up. So we have a blessing. The Hashkivenu is also about the dangers of the nighttime and of sleep. So thank you. Michael?
And I think this is very similar to what Faye was talking about in terms of the rhythm. There's a rhythm to your day, and there are things you need to do in the morning, right? There's a time limit to say the Shema. It's time to get up and it's time to do these things. And remember that these are rules for an elite, right? This is a rabbinic elite that is differentiating itself from the broader population by its discipline and by its mastery over the natural and supernatural or world through sort of very careful habits and the things that they do, when they do them, how they do them, and getting into more and more detail. And so I think for them, it's not that in the abstract one can't sleep or shouldn't sleep, but for them, sleeping in the morning, being lazy in their view, interferes with the entire rhythm of who they are and the type of self-control that they have, or Benjamin Franklin had, or that we see in that context.
Yeah, thank you. So control over the world, that we need to assert control over the world. If we get to there might be a text later about what it means to sleep in and the class associations with that. Aryeh.
Glad Faith mentioned that, because my mind went straight to the modality also in the morning. And I'm just thinking about the word shehachazarta, right? So it's basically that God has returned the soul to us. So this is pre-Tesla, right? And there is a period where your soul is now potentially being recharged. I know there's another view of this, which is that, you're getting closer to death and sleep, and then God's kind of returning that to you. But I like to think of it in a more positive way, which is that God is Shehachazarta. You have returned to us our soul. We needed to give our soul back, lend it back to you overnight, because we need a recharge. You've now recharged it, and you've given it back to us, and now we're ready to go, because we can't do it ourselves. We need God's help with us. And so, at that moment, you need that sleep, because you need God's help, and then now we're ready to go for the next day.
I like that. That we're letting our soul be recharged. That makes me think that at 2:30 in the morning, last night, if my soul was like low on battery or something, maybe that helped. I don't know. Toby.
But I want to take all this and then foot stomp what Gail had said about that this is all perhaps a metaphor, not actually about sleep, right? So what this does, right? So when someone brings me a problem and I say, let me sleep on it, right? Or you should sleep on it. What I'm doing is I'm saying, I need to let that simmer for a while, right? I need to do what I call passive thinking about it, right? Not active thinking about it, because at least for me, I'm one of the early birds. And so for me, if I'm up really late, or if I'm laying in bed and I can't sleep, I perseverate on things, right? Things get worse because I'm not renewed, I'm not refreshed. My mind is closing more, right? Whether I'm sleeping or not, right? It's more of an inward focus. So for me, that restoration of the soul is the restoration of a broader context, a lens with which I can view the world, I can view the problems, I can view my obligations and opportunities. And for me, that's why new ideas come later, come the next morning or the next day. It's because for me, it's not the physical sleep, right? It's that restoration of context and openness.
I really love that. And it makes me think that that the little sleep might not only be staying up late like we do on Shavuot, but it might also be, for some of you early bird people, getting up early and having the day reset. Having that reset is important for maybe the passive synthesis processing that you're talking about. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, please. Oh, Todd. Whichever one of you first. First, Cheryl. Yeah. Oh.
And then we just talk about what's going on a little, and we're sleeping much better.
Oh.
Amanda's here with us too, and she's doing too, and it's
Oh.
helpful, it's common sense. But I think
Thank you.
it also rhythms of what's happening in Shavuot. So I think it's a great idea. Maybe some people want at dusk. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
You can see neighbors.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. The walking before sleep or walking after dinner. Yeah. Should we move? So you can all talk, but should we move on to another text, which is about Revelation, since that's the topic of the day? So this is from the Torah reading for today, page 3, section 2, Sinai Revelation. Oh, and we're running out of time. So this is the text about the revelation itself. And what I wanted to point out, I'm not going to read it out loud, but on the third day, so if you remember in the Torah story, there's a lot of preparation going on. There's cleaning and back and forth with the people. And I think when I read the narrative about what Revelation was actually like, the thunder and the lightning and the loud blasts and some of the sensory experiences don't always make so much logical sense. It seems really like a dreamlike experience, like it was some kind of otherworldly experience. So was it prophecy? Was it a vision? I also heard this. I heard this midrash, which I didn't get to look up. So if someone knows where it's from, that the Israelites were doing all this preparation for 3 days, and maybe they were tired, and they were worried they wouldn't wake up for Revelation, for receiving the Torah. And so all the thunder and lightning was almost like a really good alarm clock. They were like, God better wake them up because they've been, they're tired and they might not wake up. So I thought that was really beautiful. But thinking about what is receiving the Torah, we're already talking about receiving the Torah, but how does sleep, more sleep, less sleep, different kinds of sleep affect the experience that at Sinai, how we think about it, and also affect our experience receiving the Torah, like last night at the Tikkun, or this morning we're hearing the 10 Commandments. So if you're sleepy, if you're not, if you're in a dreamlike state, how does that affect it? So let's just put a pin in that for 1 second, because I want to read, at least get through this Jacob story. We're not going to get to King David, but we'll do a little bit of Jacob. So this is the famous story that we're all familiar with because it's the Bethel story. So Jacob comes to a certain place and stops there. This is at the bottom of the page. Takes a stone, puts it under his head, and lays down. And then he has a very famous dream. And this is Rashi's commentary. That there's an emphasis on, it says bamakom hahu, this place. Like there's emphasis on his experience in this place. And he says that has a limitative force. That during the previous 14 years, he never slept at night because he was incessantly engaged in Torah study. But that on that night, that special night, he was able to sleep. And it was that sleep and those dreams that were talking to God and solidifying his relationship with God. And there's a really interesting, this is a modern commentary on the back of that page, Aviva Zornberg, Dr. Aviva Zornberg, who takes a kind of a literature scholarly perspective on the Torah. And she says, if you go down to the bold, she says that there's a midrash that during that time when he slept, even though it was just that one night, because he stopped his Torah study, he was not aware of himself and was not engaged in the conscious act of developing his relationship with God. Though Jacob's sleep is the basic condition for God's revelation, it also produces a kind of awe or estrangement. In other words, maybe we would disagree with this, but this interpretation is saying Jacob was really close with God when he was studying Torah all those years, but then when he finally slept, meaning he got the night of sleep, he was estranged from God a little more, which isn't how we usually think of the story. We usually think at Bethel was when Jacob prayed and had this vision and had this prophecy. So it's showing us a little bit the tension between Torah study and these visions or prophecies of revelation of Torah. And we're doing both of those, right? We studied Torah last night. This morning we're reading of the revelation. We're having this experience of hearing the Ten Commandments read. So I think we're doing both of those. The next section I'll leave if you want to look at it on your own. This is King David, who had a very interesting sleep pattern where he would get up in the middle of the night maybe, or maybe also get up early in the morning. And this also has the text about sleeping late and what that means about kind of social class. So I think just to close, we should keep learning this another time, that the way we think about sleep tells us something about how we think about our awake time, how we think about our wakefulness and our lives' consciousness. So I think that defining that for ourselves and thinking about how we can make it meaningful and holy is good work for a sleep time and a wake time. Yes, Chazan Lupin, you can have the last word.
Maybe this off topic, but a subject for another time. In the first paragraph it says, "V'al sicha imaisha," and I just wrote "Kal v'chomer be'eshet chavero."
Huh.
And I only experienced when I was in Jerusalem, and I would see men of the Neturei Karta who were there, and they never spoke to everybody. They just walked through their sharing, and of course I don't know exactly what happened at home when they slept.
They didn't speak frivolously with women, and so that is connected to sleep and wakefulness. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Thank you for your patience, and we'll close now.